Have you ever wondered why some empires thrive while others collapse? The answer lies in patterns that repeat throughout history. From the rise of the Dutch to the dominance of the United States and the rise of China, we can see a roadmap for the future. In this video, we'll explore the 5 key forces that shape empires and why understanding them is crucial for your life and investments. Empires are like seasons. They rise, flourish, and eventually decline. Understanding these cycles isn't just about history, it's about knowing what's next. Today, we'll dive into the forces driving these changes and how they impact you. Let's get started. Debt is one of the most powerful tools in an economy, but it's also one of the riskiest. On one hand, debt can be a catalyst for growth. It funds infrastructure, stimulates innovation, and supports businesses during downturns. For instance, in the 1600s, the Dutch Empire used debt to finance their expansive trade networks and military, which helped them dominate global commerce. However, the very same reliance on borrowing eventually contributed to their decline when they overextended themselves financially. Similarly, after World War II, the British Empire's extensive borrowing to fund the war effort left it struggling to maintain its global influence. The war debts, coupled with the loss of colonial revenues, forced Britain to cede its role as the world's leading superpower to the United States. Today, the U.S. faces its own debt challenges. With national debt levels exceeding $33 trillion, questions about sustainability are becoming increasingly urgent. Rising interest rates and inflation are making it more expensive to service this debt, threatening to crowd out other essential spending like healthcare, education, and defense. If history teaches us anything, it's that unchecked borrowing eventually leads to economic crises. The tipping point often comes when creditors lose confidence in a nation's ability to repay its debts, leading to currency devaluation, inflation spirals, or even defaults. To navigate this delicate balance, nations must borrow strategically, investing in assets that generate long-term returns while avoiding short-term fiscal recklessness. In the cyclical nature of empires, the mismanagement of debt often signals the beginning of decline. This is why understanding and managing debt is not just a matter for economists, it's a cornerstone of national survival. Nations rise and fall based on their internal cohesion. Internal political forces, such as polarization, civil unrest, or effective governance, determine a country's ability to unite and solve problems. History shows that when empires experience heightened political division, their strength diminishes. For example, the Roman Empire suffered from internal corruption and power struggles, which made it vulnerable to external threats. Today, we see similar patterns with the rise of populism and increasing polarization in many nations. Strong leadership and unity are critical to a nation's resilience in the face of challenges. Geopolitical conflict has always been a driving force behind the rise and fall of empires. These conflicts, whether over land, resources, or influence, often determine which nations dominate the global stage and which ones fade into history. Take the Dutch Empire, for example. In the 1600s, their battles with Spain and England over trade routes and colonies were instrumental in their ascent as a global power. However, these very conflicts stretched their resources thin and eventually contributed to their decline as other nations, like Britain, grew stronger. The British Empire, too, exemplifies the influence of conflict on empire building. Wars like the 7 Years' War and later, the World Wars, expanded their influence but also planted the seeds of overextension. After World War II, Britain's weakened state and mounting debts forced it to relinquish its global dominance, making way for the United States to rise as the new superpower. In today's interconnected world, the nature of geopolitical conflict has evolved. While territorial battles still exist, the primary arenas of modern conflict include economic power. Nations like the US and China are vying for dominance over global trade networks. Policies like tariffs, sanctions, and economic alliances are used as tools of influence, making economics a battlefield as crucial as any physical war zone. Technological supremacy. Control over emerging technologies, such as artificial intelligence, 5G networks, and quantum computing, has become a critical factor in determining global power. The race between China's Huawei and American tech giants like Google and Apple illustrates this new dimension of conflict. Narrative control. In an era of global media and information warfare, controlling the narrative has become as important as controlling land or resources. Propaganda, misinformation campaigns, and even cultural influence, e.g., Hollywood versus China's film industry, are modern tools for shaping global perceptions and gaining soft power. Current tensions between the US and China exemplify this multifaceted conflict. Issues range from disputes over Taiwan and the South China Sea to trade wars and competition in technological innovation. Each side is not only vying for immediate gains but also attempting to shape the future global order. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for anticipating future shifts in power. History shows us that empires often reach their zenith when they effectively navigate geopolitical conflicts. Conversely, failure to adapt to these changing dynamics can accelerate their decline. As the world becomes more interconnected, these conflicts will continue to shape the trajectory of nations and redefine the global balance of power. Nature, in its many forms, has always been a powerful force influencing the trajectory of civilizations and empires. From pandemics to climate change, natural phenomena expose vulnerabilities, reshape societies, and often determine which nations thrive or falter. Historical pandemics. Lessons from the past. The Black Death in 14th century Europe is a prime example of nature's transformative power. This devastating pandemic killed an estimated 25 to 30 million people, wiping out nearly half the population in some regions. The aftermath was profound. Labor shortages led to significant economic shifts, feudal systems began to collapse, and the foundations for modern economies were laid. However, the immediate impact was catastrophic, illustrating how nature can disrupt even the most powerful systems. Similarly, the Spanish flu of 1918 to 1919 caused millions of deaths worldwide, profoundly affecting the workforce and economies at a time when nations were recovering from World War I. The pandemic underscored the fragility of interconnected systems, a lesson that remains relevant today. Modern pandemics. COVID-19's wake-up call. The COVID-19 pandemic was a stark reminder that nature remains an unpredictable force in our modern world. It exposed vulnerabilities in global health systems, supply chains, and economic structures. Governments faced unprecedented challenges, from managing overwhelmed healthcare systems to implementing lockdowns that strained economies. COVID-19 also highlighted the interconnectedness of nations. What began as a localized outbreak quickly escalated into a global crisis. It forced countries to re-evaluate their resilience and adaptability. For example, nations with robust healthcare infrastructure and proactive policies fared better than those unprepared for such a large-scale disruption. Climate change, a rising threat. While pandemics are immediate and acute, climate change represents a slow-burning yet increasingly urgent challenge. Rising global temperatures, extreme weather events, and changing ecosystems are affecting everything from agriculture to infrastructure. Resource scarcity, water shortages, declining crop yields, and the depletion of natural resources are already fueling conflicts in vulnerable regions. For instance, disputes over water rights are becoming more common in arid areas, and food insecurity is a growing concern globally. Migration and displacement. Climate-induced migration is on the rise as people are forced to flee uninhabitable areas due to rising sea levels, desertification, or extreme weather. This places additional strain on urban areas and host nations, potentially sparking social and political unrest. National security. Climate change is increasingly recognized as a national security threat. Military strategists are preparing for conflicts over resources and the destabilizing effects of mass migration caused by environmental factors. Innovation and resilience. Key to long-term success. How nations respond to these natural challenges will define their futures. Innovation and resilience are critical to survival and prosperity. Adaptation through technology. Nations investing in renewable energy, climate-resilient agriculture, and green infrastructure are positioning themselves to mitigate the impacts of climate change while fostering economic growth. Global collaboration. Pandemics and climate change underscore the need for global cooperation. Joint efforts in vaccine development for COVID-19 and international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord highlight the power of collective action. Strengthening local systems. Building resilient health systems, diversifying supply chains, and supporting local economies are essential strategies for reducing vulnerability to future disruptions. In the face of nature's unpredictable forces, the nations that survive and thrive are those that can adapt quickly, innovate effectively, and unite in the face of shared challenges. History has shown that nature's impact is inevitable, but how we respond to it determines the outcome. Technology drives progress and often determines which nations lead the world. The Industrial Revolution catapulted the British Empire to dominance, while America's technological leadership in the 20th century established it as a superpower. Today, the race for AI, green energy, and space exploration defines the global competition. Technological innovation doesn't just improve lives, it also shifts power, creating opportunities for nations and businesses to leapfrog others. The question is, who will lead the next wave of breakthroughs? What do these patterns tell us about the world today? The US is facing challenges similar to past empires: rising debt, internal struggles, and increasing competition from China. But the lesson here is resilience. Understanding these forces lets us prepare for what's ahead. So, what does this mean for your investments? Here are 3 key takeaways. Diversify across regions and sectors. History shows that relying on one nation's economy can be risky. Follow innovation. Invest where technology is leading the charge. Be prepared for volatility. Empires rise and fall, but those who think long-term thrive. History is our greatest teacher. By learning from the cycles of empires, we can better navigate the challenges of today. What do you think about the rise of China or the state of the US economy? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more insights like this.